Yeah, it does seem appropriate to put that in the back there now.
There's really nothing calm about this discussion. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Film Asylum, where if you are crazy about movies, you belong here. We are your hosts, Colin Peters.
John Rochetter.
And Jeff Manfred.
I don't have anything in me right now.
I could tell, dude. I was like waiting for it. I'm a little disappointed.
What am I supposed to do in this situation? What am I supposed to say?
I don't know. I think my name today says it all.
Yeah, it does. Jabroni.
John sucks. How about that?
Yeah, also, as soon as I found out I could change the names, it's end.
Yeah, well, he'll come back.
Well, it's kind of appropriate because you did it last time for
Frankenhooker.
Frankenhooker. You were Jeff Hooker or Jeff Franken.
Yeah, that's it. Oh god.
And at least Frankenhooker was fun. Today we're not really talking about a fun discussion. I don't know, it's kind of murky actually.
It's probably gonna lead into a rant or two.
Yeah.
Or 5.
It's the state of the DCEU.
That's a fucking disappointment. That's what that is.
Yep.
Catch everybody up on the show. The DCEU started coming out around the time, I think it was 2013. The Dark Knight trilogy from Christopher Nolan's movies had just ended, and they wanted to do another Superman movie with Henry Cavill called Man of Steel.
Mm-hmm.
And that was going to launch the DCEU. It was DC's answer to the Marvel Universe and Disney. And while it was entertaining, I mean, Man of Steel it's a unique film. You know, it was like a reboot, but yet at the same time, it stayed in its own lane. It didn't really compete with Christopher Reeves. It had all sorts of Easter eggs of what was to come, and you got excited to see, like when you saw Wayne Enterprises on a satellite, you're like, okay, so they're connecting Batman in this. You saw a LexCorp truck. There was no Easter egg at the end of the movie, but it was like, okay, this is good. I mean, I remember when it first came out, it got bashed to shit by critics, but I remember seeing it going, I actually wasn't like disappointed with it at all.
Nowadays, keep going.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's a really unique movie. It's beautifully shot. I mean, the CGI to me is a little overdone, but it's a Superman movie. It's also Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder he just is notorious for CGI. I mean, just look at his version of Justice League. I mean, it's like 70-80% CGI.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen 300? It was entirely green screen. All green screen.
Yeah. I was gonna say Sucker Punch too.
Oh yeah. Oof. Not a fan of that.
I would think his thing really was because of how well he handled the remake of Dawn of the Dead and Watchmen. Watchmen was another one.
Fantastic.
Watchmen was great. Yes.
Yeah. Watchmen would let us all know that Zack Snyder was a comic book fan doing a comic book movie, where I know even that one got trashed on the first go. Even the director's cut, like being an extra half hour longer, did add to it. I thought it was great, but it's like I think everyone's still anticipating the whole Marvel treatment that we were getting at that moment as well. Because up to that moment, we did have like Iron Man, and that was actually like really funny, this action, all that, but it wasn't really the feel that DC ever had. DC has always been that darker, grittier comic series.
Right.
What I always was taught about the difference between Marvel and DC was Marvel was like people that like you and I could be superheroes. and we could be turned into superheroes, but DC was more of like the superheroes we all wanted to become, like the impossible nature of being those characters. I mean, who wouldn't want to be Superman? I mean, like, even though like Batman's my favorite character out of the DC characters, I mean, I'd still want to be Superman. Fuck, I'd be Superman, wear a Batman outfit just because I could.
Yeah, right. I want to be the
And
Flash, to be able to run as fast as humanly possible to get from one end of the earth to the other. No one
so
would ever see me coming. I
they
love
got
that ability.
they do have cool characters. And with the recent announcement, and it turns out, like, I thought it was a comic book nerd, but there were some characters that they said they're going to be making in the movies that I have no idea who they were for
And yeah,
DC.
that's rubbing people the wrong way for some of them. This
Well,
lineup of list is either praised, hated, or widely mixed.
well,
Kind
here's
of like Man of Steel.
well, here's the other thing about DC. So none of these movies really hit a chord with anybody. Maybe Wonder Woman and Shazam did well with critics. It did well at the box office. People didn't get Batman v Superman, but the three of us discussed that even like outside of here, that we said that's more of a love letter to comic book fans. Like, I still had people who, when that movie was coming out, say they didn't know why Ben Affleck was Batman. They didn't get that Christian Bale's Batman universe was done.
Oh, that casting was panned by a lot of people. I'm like, relax.
But it
He
was more of
probably won't be
like,
good.
but what I'm saying is people didn't know what was going on. Like, you had a lot of people living everyday life. Our generation was like well into adulthood, and some of us were married with kids, some of us were just working crazy schedules or whatever was going on. And if you weren't a comic book fan and following everything, you didn't know that this had nothing to do with the Dark Knight trilogy timeline. So that threw a
Mhm.
lot of people off. And if you're watching that movie, you don't see you know, the doomsday reference that it was for the death of Superman. That was basically a tribute in that. You didn't get how it was a tribute to the Dark Knight Returns and the symbolisms and the images in there. Like, they combined these like both unique stories into this movie to make a versus, and people just didn't get it.
There's a
Like,
lot. There's a
and we
lot of things in that movie.
and we watched it and said that, like, ultimately is it the director's cut or the ultimate cut or
They call it the
something?
ultimate cut. It might as well be the director's cut, but that's
Eh,
the version that was what
it
everyone really
should
wanted.
it should have been in theaters, because even though it made the movie almost 3 hours long, it made sense. Jeff, I remember, stressed that because he was the first one that I know that watched it and said
Mhm.
Oh,
it, like,
absolutely.
the little bit
Yeah.
of stuff that they added in there made a lot more sense for anything.
You saw
But
more of Superman's side why he hated Batman. He was actually doing his job as a reporter for the Daily Planet and getting the stories behind why people are hating on this Batman and why he needs to do something.
yeah, you
So,
never really got that in the original one. So there was
no, you
something else
didn't.
that, like, there was like no motive for him
Yeah.
really to be going after Batman, other than, I'm basically the living god here, I'll take care of everybody. But he's one man,
Yeah.
and Batman has his way of doing things. And of course, the oh, Batman doesn't kill anybody stuff came into play, and it was like, listen,
Hmm.
that was a fucking badass Batman, and I'd want to see more of that. I don't care.
Yeah.
Fuck that rule.
I mean, the warehouse
I
fight
mean,
scene is still the best part of that movie, in my opinion, was the warehouse
Hell
fight.
yeah.
if you base everything upon the Frank Miller um comic, which they were doing, he even says that he uses rubber bullets. So it makes me wonder if that's what they were implying as well. But when he smashes that crate down on those guys, I'm like, they're dead. I don't care
He
what you say.
did. He blew the one car up with the before he flew into the warehouse. He blew that fucking car up. They're dead.
Michael Keaton's Batman killed people too, so
He
Dude,
did.
Batman.
yeah.
I was
He had
like, Batman
machine guns on the
Returns.
Batmobile, and he blew the chemical factory up. People
I'll
are
say,
dead.
Batman Returns. He takes that big guy and straps that bomb to him and throws him in the subway. Come on.
Oh, the when he sees that dude in the devil outfit breathing fire, and he's in the Batmobile, and he just twists it around, and the dude's like, I'm gonna breathe fire on you again, and he just ignites the Batmobile and sets the dude on fire.
Yeah, he
Oh my
killed
God.
people in those
But it was
movies.
awesome.
Yeah.
So
God.
there were things that people didn't agree with in these films.
Yeah.
But when Wonder Woman came out, people were like, "Hey, there's a spark of hope here," because it
Mhm.
looked like there was some substance. And Shazam came out.
Yeah.
Some people were questioning Aquaman to a little extent, and I think it was like decently received. And
Yeah.
Aquaman wasn't bad. It wasn't a great movie, but it was like
No, yeah.
if you
Mostly
had to pay,
favorable.
yeah, if you had to pay to go see it, it was like okay, this was fun.
Yeah, I own it. I had fun with it. I love Jason Momoa.
Mm.
I thought he definitely keeps the film together.
Mhm.
And maybe there's some questionable CGI moments, but the look of the underwater sequences are great. It
And then
looks
we
like
had
Star Wars underwater at times, and it made $1 billion. It was like their highest profitable movie since the Dark Knight trilogy, and people were up in arms like, "How could this movie beat the Dark Knight?" Like, guys, relax, okay? It's you should be praising this film, not bashing it.
and then we had Suicide Squad in 2016, and that had the same issue with BVS, where you had like another director's cut or something that came out,
Well,
or
people are asking for the Ayer cut, which I don't want to. I don't really
yeah, I
want to
don't think it
see.
will really fix anything. But there was an extended version when it came out to video, and it was like it
No,
didn't really matter, but people were saying that even those little bit of scenes added more of a difference. And it's like, if they keep saying this stuff like this and they keep producing this, why are people going to go to the theater to see something that really isn't intended to be seen until it comes out
they're just
in,
gonna wait.
in
Yeah,
public? And it kind of came to a head with Justice League. Now, there was a lot of stuff with that really wasn't like at fault of anybody. I mean, Zack Snyder couldn't help that his daughter killed himself. And then that in turn brought Joss Whedon in. But now you had a large chunk of that movie already filmed, and somebody new comes in and says, "Nope,
I don't
I'm
want that.
gonna I'm gonna put more jokes in. I'm gonna have Henry
Yeah,
Cavill have like a
CGI.
CGI'd face to get rid of his mustache because he couldn't shave because he was filming Mission Impossible."
Mm-hmm.
And like I remember when I first saw it, I was just like, it's entertaining, but I didn't love it. It didn't strike.
Yeah,
Like
same way.
I think the nostalgia of having Danny Elfman come back and do the Batman theme whenever Batman came on,
Yeah,
that
that was
just
good.
that was kind of like the thing that like I liked the most about
Mhm.
it. There was some cool imagery to it, but I mean, as far as like parademons and CGI bosses go, I was like, I'm not into this at all.
The color correcting, the look of Steppenwolf, and the jumbled shots, and how it had to be 2 hours, even with the credits put in. It felt the whole thing felt rushed. It did. I mean, my only comment was after I saw the film was it's better than Suicide Squad. That's really all I can say.
Yeah, one rung up the ladder.
Yeah.
If there was one positive, it was Henry Cavill being in it, and he had like that great scene where he gets resurrected, and when he comes in to save the not the Suicide Squad, the Justice League,
Mhm.
that was always cool. And
Yeah.
if anything, it just solidified like how much or how great I should say that Henry Cavill is a Superman. Like since Man of Steel, it was like, wow,
Yeah.
this guy's got it. Like from
Yeah.
all the shows and Superman Returns, like we hadn't had a Superman that really like hit you until
Hmm.
he came in. Despite
Right.
what the movie might have been or what you think of all those movies, Henry Cavill has always been that guy where you just said, "Wow, not since Christopher Reeve have we had a great
Hmm.
Superman like this." I mean, he totally fit that character
He
to it.
did. Yeah. It tried with Brandon Routh, and the whole experience was just Lois Lane the movie. That's what I thought about it. You never got the sense that Superman was powerful. You never got the sense that he was having a good time being Superman. Henry Cavill did have a big grin on his face when he was smiling, when he was discovering his powers. And you don't need kryptonite to make a good Superman movie. There was no kryptonite in that movie whatsoever. And he got the shit kicked out of him by the Kryptonians, by all of them.
God.
And they still made a compelling story. Yes, the third act is a bit much. It's very, very CGI heavy, but a lot of people really do care for this movie, and I do too, because it asks a lot of questions. Like, well, if Superman was put in that situation with Zod, he would have been a dick if he allowed him to kill those people. No, he had no choice but to snap his neck and kill him. And that was divisive at the time. But now people are praising it, saying, yeah, you had to do what you had to do, Superman. It sucks, but you did what you had to do.
It is that sort of like, well, there was that father son thing where because that's the thing about Man of Steel is like it's very father son themed throughout that movie between his
Yeah,
biological father and then his adopted father on the farm. They're like all
right.
like they're guiding him even in death and telling him like you're gonna be something special to the world and special to the people. And even when Superman says to his dad, Pa Kent, and he's like, am I still your son? He's like, you are my son. Like just because you're from another world doesn't mean, we're not going to love you any different. And you're special in so many ways. There was like great themes in that movie that people just kind of threw over their shoulder. I guess they just wanted more Superman fight bad guy stuff. But it
Or
was
more
like,
Yeah.
humor. I don't know. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't get it, but I was like, Man of Steel had so much going for it that I said people just completely overlooked the deeper meaning in this movie, and that's why I mean it's beautifully shot. The colors pop like crazy, and Henry Cavill just makes you want more of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say the first scene that you really catch a glimpse of Henry Cavill, like his strength and everything, is when that tanker's going down, and he's actually sitting there holding it while they're in the middle of the ocean. And I'm sitting there going, that scene where you're actually finally getting to see his full, like, well, not even his full strength, a good portion of it shows, like, yeah, there's more to this character, but they're hiding how much he's capable of doing, which I
Yeah.
thought was a nice touch because we are used to, hey, he's Superman.
Yeah, he
But
just puts on a cape and flies. Like
and
in
the
this
fact,
one, they actually show him like falling down when he's trying to fly, and then the music that when he finally flies, like he falls down, then he gets back up, and then he just like even goes outside of Earth. It was like, yeah, man.
Hmm.
and then
Uplifting.
when you brought up the fact that he snapped Zod's neck because it was a necessity, but it also showed that he was willing to go to do what he needed to do, but he was also willing to not want to do that ever again. So that's what I think
Yeah.
the comment in Batman versus Superman was to Batman about killing him. I'm like, yeah, I think he will probably do it.
and
But
and it's like a soldier mentality where like a lot of soldiers they don't really want to kill anybody but they do it out of
Yeah.
necessity, and they know that like if you do it and you enjoy doing it that's wrong, but if you do it and you feel bad about it like the way he did,
Yeah.
you like you still have like some humanity left in you. And that's what it also showed like after Zod's neck got snapped and he just is there screaming because it's like
Yeah. What I will say is that I think starting off with Superman was the right idea to kickstart this whole DCEU thing going, because the Marvel Phase One was already like 2 or 3 years, no, more than that. It was 2008 when they had Iron Man, and it was already about 3 or 4 years into Phase One where they had all these movies, and the first Avengers movie already came out in 2012. So it's like, okay, what's DC trying to do? Well, I think they tried to rush it a little too much, very much, because a lot of people say, Zack Snyder, if you had just made the Batman film, and if you gave us The Dark Knight Returns in 2016 as opposed to Batman v Superman, that would have been a better film. And you would have led up to Batman v Superman if you gave us the introduction of Batman first, or at least your solo movie with Ben Affleck. You could have taken your time and introduced these characters in solo movies one by one, and then eventually get to the big introduction of Wonder Woman and other things going forward. But the executives at the time wanted to rush everything. It seems like they were just in a big damn arms race to get up to Marvel's speed, which you shouldn't have done. They already had a 5 year head start on you. And some people look back, well, the Dark Knight trilogy was kind of in the phase. I know, yeah, fine, that was a thing, but
that was its own
um,
thing. It wasn't
it
a
was its own
universe.
thing. It was its own thing. I mean, um,
I would just say if you look at the size of Henry Cavill compared to Christian Bale, they would be the same concept of what happened with Kane Hodder and I forgot his name for Freddy versus Jason. They needed somebody bigger. So Ben Affleck being a bigger dude compared to Henry Cavill would have been a better fit because they at least had the height and the size.
Yeah.
Where Christian Bale is more of a lean cut, and I think he's shorter, but don't hold me to that. It wouldn't have looked as
I don't
well.
remember. Yeah.
I think Bale is like 6', 6'1", and Affleck 6'3".
Okay.
Okay.
And don't forget, like those suits that they wear too are padded. I mean, that's not actually not Affleck's physique, but the suit helps.
The best advice
Henry Cavill, though, I don't know.
Yeah, the
Dude,
best advice
is
that
That's why he's Superman.
yeah, best advice that Bale gave to Affleck is make sure you can piss in
Go
that
to the
thing.
bathroom.
Make sure you can go to the bathroom in that suit because you're going to be wearing that for hours.
I also took this, like starting with Man of Steel and Zack Snyder's movies. I always took it was essentially Superman's universe. So adding in the characters to his universe was a lot easier than, like you said, doing the solo films, because if you base it around him, then everything is from his point of view. So when we find out about Batman, it's actually from his point of view. So it would have made sense doing Batman versus Superman next, and then kind of moving that way. Because like if you look at it, like Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, and Justice League, those are essentially your trilogy, but they're all from his point of view. So if we would have went outside of his point of view, it would have actually expanded the universe. Yes, it would have made the storyline a little more linear, but we're only seeing Clark Kent's point of view.
Yeah, it's like
And I
here's
think
here's Superman, here's Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash.
Yeah, I hate saying this, but I mean, the whole Batman v Superman, the one part, the whole computer sequence with Diana Prince discovering the other metahumans was just, might as well just had in big air quotes Justice League set up. It just, did you really need to have that scene in this movie? I don't know. Apparently. But basically, after Justice League happened, the Whedon cut, as you all call it, those executives got the fuck out of there. The Justice League. Yeah, they got the fuck out. The executives just fucking bailed. They're like, we're going to take our money and run. And then they hired new people. But we still had hope with Wonder Woman, which did really well. It had like 800 million worldwide, and we knew that we were going to get a sequel to that one. But it's just like Justice League kind of set us back a bit with the Justice League. It set us back a bit, and we were all holding out hope in 2018 for Aquaman to be great. And it did really well. Like, okay, now maybe can we get back on track again? It's been a roller coaster, up and down, up and down, up and down.
Wonder Woman 2 was horrible.
I mean, you could blame that on the pandemic. You can blame it on too many cooks in the kitchen and some casting choices that people didn't care for. And also how they handled Steve Trevor coming back. I didn't care for that. There were a lot of missed opportunities with that film. And yeah,
That's another discussion.
Yeah, it wasn't quite like the Phantom Menace syndrome that I have with Suicide Squad, where I told myself it was good for 5 months, and then I woke up and I said, "No, it wasn't good. It sucked, John. Stop fooling yourself."
Wait! You actually said it was good? Like,
yeah, in the
really?
In the theater afterwards, I said, "It was good. I liked that movie a lot." My voice got really high. I'm like, "It was really good. I enjoyed it." But then I kept continuing to convince myself that it was good until one day I woke up and said, "You know what, John? It fucking sucked." And I woke up. Everyone did the same thing with the Phantom Menace. You convinced yourself it was good for months, and then you woke up one night and realized, you know what? It wasn't good at all.
Not even the slightest, dude. I remember being so disappointed with Suicide Squad, the original one.
Yeah.
My anticipation for that one was supposed to be really high because the comic series is really good. Everything was really high at that moment. So I'm like, cool, we're going to see a live action version. And at the same time, we're getting Batman vs Superman, which my expectation was so low I could trip over it. And because I'm like, you're already doing the Batman vs Superman. And then it wasn't until I saw both movies and I realized what was going on. They tried to push Suicide Squad, make it its own thing, bring them all in at once. And it was too many, like you said, too many cooks in the kitchen, too many fucking executives. it was just too much at once. It took 45 minutes to introduce all the characters, and then it left you with like what 40 minutes to fight the villain. Get the fuck out of
I
here.
know the
And
villain
that
was
villain was
laughable,
trash.
Yeah.
and Suicide Squad was trash. And speaking of that, because of the reception of Batman v Superman, the executives went to damage control. They said, "Oh my God, guys, please insert more jokes into Suicide Squad. You have to do this right now, or no one's going to see it. Everyone thinks it's too serious. Seriously, get reshoots. Pay as much money as you want. I don't fucking care. Just do what you have to do to basically make this movie more jokey and to make it more lighthearted."
Oh, because
That's what
Jared
they thought
Leto
everybody
was so
wanted.
scary.
They thought the trailer was good, but it was too serious, and they were like, "Oh my God, guys!" That everyone pointed out the negatives with BVS, and they want to correct that shit with Suicide Squad. Get the actors to come back in right now, right now. We have to do reshoots. We have to tear this apart, and we have to splice it together. And it just made it worse.
And let's be honest, the only real bright spot of Suicide Squad was Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. We never had a
Yes.
live on-screen version of her, and she
No,
killed it
yeah.
in the role. Even like, I'm not the biggest Will Smith fan, but he was good in that movie too. I gotta
It was
give him
good.
credit.
I want him to wear the mask more, honestly, but beggars can't be choosers. We've got a lot of Harley Quinn, though. We've got a lot of Margot Robbie. I hope she's still sticking around to some capacity. I mean, we
That's
got her
I
in
guess.
Birds of Prey, and we got her in The Suicide Squad. So she got to reprise her role again in another Suicide Squad sequel that was infinitely better. That's what we wanted. That's what we wanted all along.
But was The Suicide Squad a good movie though?
No. If you look at it, it
I
was
say yes.
like, I would say a bunch of string of jokes that actually made the movie. Like, so King Shark made that movie. Peacemaker, which ended up getting his own show, made that movie. Harley Quinn
Ratcatcher
made
was
it.
great.
Yeah, and then dude, the one that caught me off guard the most was Polka Dot Man. The only reason I know about him is because of the fucking Lego game. And he is such a low-ranking villain.
Of course.
And making him that big in that movie, like all the jokes they used with him, yeah, it was nice seeing them push him forward, because sometimes you need a DEF villain to kind of come out of nowhere, just be like, hey, these are actually cool. But if we use Condiment King anywhere, I will fight somebody.
No, that's also
The
a
Lego
testament
Batman
to
movie.
the actors too, because the actors help make that character go push beyond the, like, what we would actually think about that. And then you go, damn man, that character is actually a lot cooler. Like it's kind of like how I tell people when they watch Venom, like you can't hear Venom's voice talking to Eddie in the comic book. In the movie, you can.
Yeah.
Because there is that interaction, but in the comics, you're limited to just 2D and no audible, noises to help you understand what's actually going on, like tone, and you know what I'm saying. So, like, the movies can make a difference. And I think that's like the main joy of like why we look at these comic book characters that we've seen either as a cartoon, or like when the first Superman came out, it was like so revolutionary because it was all about, you'll believe a man can fly. And they did that. So we had that going on, and then we had Tim Burton's Batman. Like, you watch that stuff now and they are very tame, but when we first saw them, especially as kids, like if you saw the old Adam West Batman movie or show growing up, and you saw like how they had like practicality, they had real effects, the Batmobile was real, their gadgets were real, and then you kind of got that like almost 60s show, but amplified and dark in Tim Burton's Batman movie. And a lot of that also had to do with the fact that you could kind of get away with that with Joker because he like still had that flavor of that show. And also the kids who watched that show were now adults, and they were part of the target audience, and they're taking their kids to this Batman. So you kind of had to have that 60s Batman in there, but and have like that substance of, wow, the Batmobile's real, it's tangible, the bat rope and the grappling hook looks real, and the Joker has his stupid like chattering teeth. And now things have just gotten so amplified that like when X-Men and Blade came out, we were like, yo, comic book movies are getting really serious.
They're not campy jokes anymore. They're
They're
taken
dark and
seriously.
rated R,
Yeah,
they're showing more killing. It's like,
right.
no, this isn't just for kids anymore,
That's kind
And
of why I do lean towards the Suicide Squad, because it embraced its R roots. It was graphic. It was exactly what the characters were intending to do. It was better acted and better written, and it had a better narrative. The other one just didn't in 2016. But yeah, this is the direction the society's going in.
And the Suicide Squad was James Gunn's directorial debut
With
for
DCEU
DC.
after he got fired from Guardians 3, which he ended up still doing anyway. Yeah.
It was one of those things that it looked like what is it? So DC picks up Marvel's toy and Marvel's like, no, that's our toy. We want it back now. That's exactly what just happened. And
Yeah.
I feel like it helped him out in the long run, but it's like now that I guess James Gunn's the showrunner in DC, it kind of maybe made things worse. Because
I just don't think he's the right guy for this job.
no.
I think he's a fan for sure,
He is a fan.
but I never like really had high praise on his movies. I actually thought Guardians of the Galaxy was overrated. Like when everybody said this was the best Marvel movie ever, I was like, I like it. But to say it was the best, I was like,
The second one, I liked some things, but I overall thought it was forgettable. Second one.
I kind of thought Guardians of the Galaxy was actually the decline of the start of the decline. Actually, it's like, okay, we're peaking, but we're going into space now, when everything was grounded more, unless the villains were coming. Yeah. And then I heard that's where they wanted to go, and I was like, well, now these characters really aren't as relatable as we once thought.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you had Thor, who was completely unrelatable, but we knew Thor as the god of thunder amongst these other people who were, real life superheroes, so it fit.
Now Thor's a joke, and that pisses me off.
There really hasn't been a good solo Thor movie since the first one.
I mean, Ragnarok I thought was good, but I do like the first one more than a lot of people. People say it's too many Dutch angles. So fucking what has too many Dutch angles? Have you seen? Oh my god, Battlefield Earth. Have you fucking seen that movie? Good god,
Wait, hold up,
every
hold
shot
up.
is a Dutch angle.
Hold up. Why the fuck up bring Battlefield Earth into this? That movie's just horrible.
Because of the Dutch angle aspect. Because a lot of people thought Thor had too many Dutch angles. I'm like, so fucking what?
All right. I don't even know what the fuck a Dutch angle is, so I'm gonna have to ask.
You tilt the camera on a side and basically trying to convey some moment of tension.
Batman.
That's why it typically does.
Batman TV show. They did it because the villains were crooked.
Oh, okay.
So that's why whenever you saw the villains, they were on a Dutch angle.
Yeah. Or like there was a scene in Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise, the first one, where there's about to be this big confrontation, and every scene is a Dutch angle showing tension. That's why it's typically done. So, Joel Schumacher did it for the hell of it, but whatever.
So, going back to the Suicide Squad and James Gunn, we got the announcement that things are moving forward, but since Justice League, there was a little bit of a discrepancy, I guess. Like Henry Cavill kind of announced that he wasn't returning for Superman there for quite some time, and things were really vague, and there was nothing about any new Superman project moving forward at the time.
Still working out.
So we didn't really know what was going on. Like, was it official? And then there was this talk of a Man of Steel 2. Finally, DC was going forward with a Black Adam movie. They were doing Aquaman 2, and then they were doing The Flash. And while this was all happening, controversy out the ass. You had the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing. She's in Aquaman. And people are like signing petitions to like CGI her out.
Or get Emilia Clarke to replace her. That was a big casting decision the fans wanted. Which is, I wouldn't mind that, but
At that
Not gonna
point,
lie,
if you
there was
go
two
ahead.
things that I wish they would have done. One being replace her with Bruce Campbell. That was a petition, and the other petition I saw was CGI King Shark over top of her the whole entire movie.
Please do that one.
I'm like, that would have changed the narrative of Aquaman 2 either way.
Yeah, it would have.
So you had that, and then you also have the controversy with Ezra Miller and the Flash, and
Yes.
that is just, I mean, psychotic tendencies and threatening to kill people. It's like
Getting in with fans. Yeah. A lot of it.
uh,
Oh
grooming. I
yeah.
think they said like he had a family at a farm and was grooming them or something. It was like all sorts of bizarre stuff going on.
Yeah.
And the sad part is, this is probably the last DC movie that I'm hyped up about. And the main reason is because
the
Michael
Flash.
Keaton's coming back as
Yeah.
Batman in The Flash.
Yeah.
They're going the Flashpoint storyline, which again is going to be comic book heavy. And I'm sure majority of people are going to be like, why is Michael Keaton Batman in this? Because they don't know
Mhm.
what Flashpoint is unless you're a comic book person.
Right. It's going to reset everything. This is the movie that's basically going to launch us into the new era, which,
And there
people
was
are
talk,
saying it's a good movie. The people who saw The Flash say it's a good movie, but that could be a PR stunt to get people hyped up to see it. This movie's been going on since 2016. I mean, 5 or 6 directors dropped out of this project, and now finally it's happening.
and then Black Adam took how many years to get made? It finally
About the same
came
amount
out,
of time.
and it really was like, I didn't understand why a Black Adam movie had to be made in the first place.
Because they promised The Rock that he was going to get his movie.
And then I think there was wasn't there like some weird deal where The Rock was also going to have some like control over DC movies and like possibly be a producer?
I don't remember that, but it could be. Anything's
Um,
possible.
if you look at the Black Adam movie, though, I think he has a production company in it now. So that's probably what
Okay.
it was. So he might help be producing movies just to kind of keep the ball rolling, because how is it? The Rock is pretty much a action movie icon, and they are going to use him as such.
Yeah.
The only positive thing I could definitely say about Black Adam was finally seeing a movie from the villain's point of view, where it made him the hero.
Good point.
That was the biggest thing I saw in that movie, and I actually felt for him, because I'm like, he wasn't here just to be a bad guy. He was always groomed to be the hero, and in his eyes, he was a hero. But it's also showing the fact that how powerful he really is. Even in the DCEU, he can actually beat Superman. Spoiler alert, that's what happens. But that's why you need Shazam. And it's cool. Like, even at the end of that movie, that's where this is leading, that Henry Cavill showed up to go head to head with him. And I was hoping that was going to happen.
Yeah, when we got the new,
unfortunately.
that was the official debut that Henry Cavill was back, and we were going to get another Superman movie. It was going to be Man of Steel 2, and I think he was going to fight Brainiac.
Yeah. That was a
And-
leaked plot that was going to happen in the other movie, but now it would have happened.
And then in a matter of what, 2 months, we hear that James Gunn and somebody else, I forget his name, said that they have pretty much the control over the DCEU, and said, we are not moving forward with Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. We are not moving forward with Henry Cavill as Superman. Jason Momoa is no longer Aquaman. He's going to be Lobo, who is another famous comic book character. So he's still in the DCEU, but he's going to play another character.
There'll probably be no Ezra Miller. They'll probably
No, he's staying.
Oh, he's staying. He is staying. Okay.
They said he's staying, of all things.
Ben Affleck, apparently this is his last film with the Flash film. After this, he's done.
Supposedly they cut Henry Cavill and Wonder Woman out of the Flash now too. Apparently they were supposed to have cameos, and they're no longer in it.
They were.
I mean, if they actually do follow true Flashpoint, they can change anybody. That would be the smartest thing to do. Even have the cameos from Cavill and Godot left in them,
Mhm.
they can change the universe from wherever the hell they want at this moment. Because
Yeah.
if anybody doesn't know the Flashpoint storyline, it is when Flash goes back in time to save his mom, and he does it. It actually alters everybody's timeline, where
Yeah.
Bruce ends up getting killed instead of his parents. Superman is actually incarcerated under, I think it's Metropolis, in a kryptonite cell. There's so many ripples, and the fact that there's two things I would love to see is Thomas Wayne actually be Batman, but I don't think that's going to happen, and Martha Wayne being the Joker would have been probably the coolest thing ever. But I doubt that's ever going to happen. But
Yeah.
There's an animated movie about it. I forget what it's
Yes.
called. Is it actually called Flashpoint?
yeah,
Mhm.
Okay.
that's actually the animated series. They catch everybody up. That was a 10-year process. It started with Flashpoint and ended with what the hell is it? I think it's the Dark Side War. I forget what that's actually called. It actually
Okay.
ends with him starting the process over, so they can start a new whole animated universe. It was like 10 years,
Mhm.
and I thought it was actually really cool that they used that moment to create a whole new timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the comics,
Okay.
they did it. They did it from that was the soft reboot of the comic series. So you actually have one sort of art going into Flashpoint, and then when you come out of Flashpoint, everybody is a different art and different bat suits, everything. And it was actually a nice moment. They were able to bring back people that were dead. They gave them an option of becoming alive again, but they had to do something good to I guess get their life back. So
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it was ultimately a year and a half of bringing back Swamp Thing as the White Lantern, too. So which was funny.
That's actually one of the films that's in the 8-year plan. Actually, I have the whole list right here.
I mean,
Um,
if that show was any glimpse of what we were gonna get, as it like really was a horror series, I think if they would want to keep going that route, keep it more darker, because Swamp Thing ultimately is a monster. He may be a scientist, but at the end of the day, he's still a plant monster.
Still Plant Monster.
He's actually a really cool character. I
He
mean,
is. Oh,
we
he
kind
is.
of got stuck with like the original 80s movies, which were like
Wes
very
Craven.
low budget,
Wes Craven's take.
but they were entertaining.
Yeah.
But
Adrian Barbeau was entertaining. Yeah.
but yeah, I'd like to see more special treatment for that character because it is a really cool character.
He's about to get it. I mean, there's even consideration that James Mangold might take the helm of the Swamp Thing film. The show I thought was good. Len Wiseman directed the first two, who did Underworld, and I thought he did a great job with the show, but they canceled after one season because it was too expensive. But I mean, and also their DC project with Doom Patrol and Titans was kind of folding. Their whole platform to try and be a streaming platform just kind of folded. And we're like, all right, we'll just join HBO Max, and that's where we'll go. So this whole list of
Actually, that's because HBO owns Warner Brothers and
they
AT&T
do.
owns them all.
Yeah, AT&T owns everything. So
I discovered that because I kept hearing about the Snyder Cut, and then ultimately I looked into it, and I'm like, who actually owns this company? Yeah, AT&T. That's why
AT&T.
if they will try to work everything out. I think Doom Patrol just finally got canceled after the 4th season.
It did. It did. That's good. I mean, 4 seasons, that's good for them. So, because people thought it was only going to last like 2 seasons, but it made it 4. So,
I mean, starting out showing Brendan Fraser's ass and then working your way from there.
he is one of the best parts of that show. He is awesome. I mean, everybody's great. Jonathan Groff is great. And even, oh my God, Timothy Dalton. Timothy Dalton is the fucking purpose. Good casting there. Seriously. But yeah, I mean, I guess are we at that list now? This the whole big presentation that was announced last week. I mean, this is what we got. It's basically chapter 1 is what they're calling this, the 8-year plan. And it's going to be a combination of the DC extended universe, if you want to even call it that, and also Elseworlds. So movies like the Batman 2 and the Joker sequel are going to be under Elseworlds. Not related to DCEU, but still their own thing. You know, we got the big one that was announced was Superman Legacy on July 11th of 2025. You got The Batman Part 2 on October 3rd of 2025. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. I read the plot. It actually looks really dark. The Brave and the Bold. I don't know what the hell that is. Paradise Lost, Wonder Woman, which I think is a TV show about Themyscira. Booster Gold is getting a project. Creature Commandos. What the fuck are they? What?
That one
like,
again.
It's just like, is this like another Suicide Squad? That's what it kind of seemed like to me. Amanda Waller's getting her own show. Green Lanterns. Finally, something like that might happen. And Swamp Thing, there might be our horror film. And The Authority. Don't know what that is. I'm sorry. I don't know what The Authority is. Actually, isn't that no, The Brave and the Bold is supposed to be Batman and Robin. I think.
It's focused on Damian.
Damian, that's right. Sorry. Yeah. But-
Damian is Bruce Wayne's son who becomes Robin, and he's like all about
Right.
like, I'm gonna kill this guy, and Batman's like, no.
Furthermore, it's also Talia's son, just Talia al Ghul.
Oh, Talia al Ghul. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
But-
also different I guess backstories for Damien, whether he's a test tube baby or he's actually their baby. So
Yeah.
I think he's actually as old as we are because that comic came out in 1986.
So I guess the first 10 minutes of The Brave and the Bold should be is he not your son?
Yeah.
Jerry.
Well, ultimately it is
Bruce,
his son.
you are the father.
I was like, ultimately it is Bruce's kid. It's just whether or not they actually fucked or if it's
Oh my god. Yeah.
But yeah,
And
that
then-
list sounds so exciting.
Doesn't it? On top of that, I mean, this year you still got Shazam, Fury of the Gods, you still got Flash, you got Blue Beetle, which is coming out in August, and then you got Aquaman 2 in December.
Oh, Blue Beetle. My
I
God.
know. With the
I wouldn't mind seeing that one. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't know anything
Yeah.
about Blue Beetle. I know nothing about him.
It-
So
It's essentially like an alien armor that's strapped to your back.
okay.
So the armor actually protects you. It actually is almost like essentially Iron Man, but it's alive. So it's an alien.
So it's Iron
technology.
Man and Venom.
Yes. But
Combination
like
of Iron Man and Venom. There you go.
Yeah.
I like the
Um,
actor, but I just don't know. I don't know anything about this fucking movie. So it's just yeah, that list just leaves a lot to be desired. It really does.
It seems like they're cutting out the big four on purpose.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to bring up all these, background heroes and then kind of work our way back to the big four. So maybe
guess so.
they're gonna build up the universe, maybe write some better stories, but it's a lot of speculation because like just reading that off, I'm like sitting there going, those sound awful, fucking awful.
I mean, I'll say this: we're owed a good Green Lantern film, and I'm curious about Swamp Thing. That's it.
We gotta wait 10 years for that, okay?
We do. So that's all I can say. Batman 2 still happening. I'm happy for that. I know some people may not be happy, but I am, because it's a dark, gritty Batman film that's like on the edge of 7. It feels like 7. So yeah. I know.
I'm
What's
still
going
salty
to-
about Henry Cavill.
I'm very salty about that too. I'm very salty about axing off Gal Gadot.
Hell, I'm salty about how they were gonna look forward to doing a Batman Beyond movie with Michael Keaton
Hell yeah.
as old man Batman,
Mhm.
and now they said nope.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm
The,
like
the
here you
funeral
got,
screen.
like here you got the guy,
Yeah.
and like you're not even giving it consideration. He's
Yeah.
70. All right.
Yeah.
yeah.
The funeral
Right.
screening for Batgirl, which I heard it's like if we did release this, it would have made things worse. But I don't know.
I just
Cat-
want to see the Michael Keaton scene with him in the Batman suit. I heard that's all.
I want to see him in the
Like,
Flash.
all he
yeah.
did.
Yeah, I want to see him in the Flash. Seriously.
I just want to see that scene from Batgirl, just Michael Keaton again in Batman anytime I
Mhm.
can get it. But
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
that's
Mhm.
all I would want. But
Yeah.
uh I'll be completely honest. I have no desire for any of this shit.
I'm going to be honest. I think this is
Hmm.
all the result of something we saw coming years ago, and that's comic book fatigue.
Yeah, and
I
part
don't
of that,
watch anything from the MCU. I can't stand what's going on in the MCU. When I saw Thor: Love and Thunder, I wanted to like throw a brick at my TV.
Listen,
yeah, I
the
was
best way to
disappointed.
describe, yeah, the best way to describe that fucking movie is the third wheel on a bad date.
A
Because,
joke.
yeah, I felt so awkward watching that fucking movie. Like I got up 4 times just because I was that fucking awkward.
Listen,
Yeah.
after I saw Thor: Love and Thunder, I appreciated Dark World more.
Oh, I love Dark World was an Oscar winner compared to that fucking shit. Oh my
People
god.
think I'm crazy for it, but I'm like, no,
No, you're
it's.
not. No, you're not.
I'm like
Unpopular
I.
opinion. I did actually like Dark World because of how dark it really was.
That's
The
seeing that's Thor though. Like I
it's
Yeah.
even
Thor.
heard Hemsworth say we got to go in a new direction. That's why I didn't
Hmm.
really like Ragnarok until the very end because it was like, okay, we're back in his world and here he is fighting
Hmm.
his sister. He lost an eye. It got like really gritty. But like all that stuff on the other planet that was like Guardians of the Galaxy type stuff, I was like, this
Hmm.
isn't Thor. Um, but then again, that's Marvel
Yeah.
and um I still think that uh, there still should be a Man of Steel 2 with Henry Cavill. I
We
still
should
think
be.
we should still have that movie with
Yeah, we
him. It's like,
should.
hey, you want to like do all this side stuff? Like it's also like one of those if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it's also to me this feels a lot like you have a really good football team, like all your players are there and you got the makings of a championship team. But then a new general manager comes in and he says, okay, now I'm in charge. I recognize all you guys are good, but I'm going to trade you. I'm going to get a new coach because I'm going to make this my team. And that's what
Yeah.
I feel like James Gunn is doing. It's like
I,
he's coming in and just
Hmm.
doing his own thing to say this is my
Yep.
project. And of course, he's like so pumped up about Superman. And he said, I'm really excited about Superman Legacy or whatever they're
He's
calling it.
writing it apparently, but
And I'm like, well, that just kind of says it right there. It's about what he wants to do,
yeah.
not really what we want. Like we want Cavill back. We like why do we need to go back again and see him on the farm and go to the Daily Planet again? Like, okay, it's not totally reinventing the wheel, but it's kind of like you're putting a spare donut on. And for
It's
what?
true.
uh,
You're hit the ground running. We want to see more of that. We want to see Superman expand that universe, and you've got the guy to do it.
Hmm.
Like Henry Cavill is the guy. It's almost like saying, "Yo, you're the best quarterback on this team, but I didn't pick you, so bye. I'm gonna find another one."
Hmm.
I mean, first off, look at Brightburn. That proves that we don't need another alternate Superman. Um,
Oh yeah.
I'm also salty the fact that Henry Cavill left The Witcher to do the DC, and now he got fired from that.
Yeah. Only
And I'm
to have a
sitting there,
meeting go south.
exactly. So you wrecked two things because of James Gunn's poor decisions. Ugh.
And I know it doesn't really have anything to do with his art, but he got fired for sexual assault charges or something from Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
I think it was like some offensive tweets and some other things that were thrown into there. Past tweets were dug up and he was fired by Disney.
And let's face it, with the way Disney is now, for him to be fired for that and then rehired is
Hmm.
kind of like, where's morality in this? Um,
I
I,
mean,
I mean, nobody's perfect, but these are like serious charges, you know? And now this guy's just being rewarded. It's kind of like to me, it kind of reminds me of like Terrence Howard. Like he's had what, 5 sexual assault accusations and he gets a primetime TV show. Accountability, anybody? And now he's in charge of something and
um,
basically took away something important, not just to fans, but anybody who saw Henry Cavill be the guy. He also took it away from Henry Cavill. I mean, I don't know what Cavill's like to work with. Maybe he's difficult.
I
I don't
don't know.
know.
We don't know him personally.
But all I know is on screen, that's what lasts. And he killed it. You know? I mean, like, as playing that character, and now we're not getting it anymore.
These executives, these previous people that have been axed before, they could be taking two steps towards this, saying, A, we believe in second chances, and B, they've hugged the cactus long enough, as the old saying goes. Could be all those things.
Maybe that's
Could be money.
reason.
Could be money talks. That's why the MCU and DCU are not dead, is because money talks, and people vote with their wallets when they go to the theater.
Well, that's just the other thing too. So between all these ultimate cuts, director's cuts, and now the rebooting thing, I'm just so sick and tired of. Instead of fixing it and moving on down and trying to make things better with good things that you have, it's always, we're just going to reboot it.
Yeah.
Why should we, like anybody, pay for it anymore? You know, you don't go to a theater to see 35 millimeter experience anymore. It's digital. Hey, I can get digital on TV.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Most of it's
You know.
digital. Some people still stick to film, which is incredible.
Yeah, but first runs are few and far between
They are very
On
far between.
on 35 millimeter.
Yeah.
So, you know, like the theater experience isn't fully the same anymore. So why do I care about that? And if anybody were to like comment and say, why do you care so much about 35 millimeter in film? Because it's one of the best resolutions that's out there.
Mhm.
It still blows digital away. That's
All right,
why I say it.
I'd say, take for instance, Colin, you and I, before Halloween, actually saw Halloween on 35 millimeter. Just
Mhm.
seeing the way the film looked on the screen, like you could tell this print was well loved, and it actually gave a different feel to the movie because, yes, it was aged, it was cracked, it had like the splices, but it gave you that real theater experience.
Mhm.
Where the digital, it's fucking beautiful, but it's not going to give you the same feel.
No,
Like,
it's flawless in its own, you know, medium. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. But when we grew up with like the hearing the film reel go, like hell, we hear it at the drive-in yet.
oh my
Yeah.
We
god,
like even out in the field, we still hear the projectors going. "Grrr."
The cigarette burns in the corner. Oh yeah, when it's
Yeah.
time to change the reel. Film's tangible. Digital is not. So
Hell, I got like 35 millimeter prints of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Batman 89, and I hold them up to the light and I go, damn, man, look how fucking awesome these prints
yeah.
are.
Same with
Like
models.
after 30 years.
yeah.
Yeah. Real tangible models are always going to look better than CGI.
And I'm not dissing on digital because, like I said, it's
No.
beautiful in its own medium. But now that we're just getting, oh, reboot, and oh, this wasn't the best thing that we got. So wait until like it comes out on video, and oh, we'll do like a re-edit for you to buy at home. It's like,
Spend more money.
so exactly. So what's the point? Like, why should I waste my time and money for something like that when at the end of the day they just brush it off, like I said, like, oh, you guys love Henry Cavill, oh well, we're gonna reboot it.
Yeah.
Cooks in the kitchen. It's a lot of things factored in. It just is.
Like it also makes me
Um,
wonder, like, what if Michael Keaton gets a great reception again? It's like, yo, it was so awesome having him come back as Batman. What if he does a Batman Beyond movie and they're just like, we thought about it, but we're moving in a different direction. It's like, so you're not
Yeah.
going to give us that, even though that's what we want, but we'll get all this other stuff that
Bullshit.
John mentioned. Yeah.
because we're not in charge. They are.
So the best
So-
thing, so the best thing we can do is if we don't agree with it, is just not watch it.
Yeah.
And like you said, John, about the comic book fatigue, I kind of blame that on the fact that a lot of movies suck now.
They do.
Either they, like in general, regular movies, they are just absolutely horrible.
They have to compete with comic book movies. They can't, because
And-
that's
and
what
that-
makes all the money.
And exactly, that's the main draw. And I think that's the only thing that's really keeping the box office alive anymore.
It's sad and unfortunate, but I always ask this question: What will it take for the MCU and the DCU to just go away for good?
I don't think
On
it'll
this on
ever
the
go.
screen, on the screen. What will it take for them to just end it all?
Money. Don't give them
End it
money.
all. Yeah, money.
To end it all, they get rid of the rights somehow, and they realize that it's a lost property.
Hit the shutdown button and just say it's done. We're
Because
moving on with another property.
it starts getting a little convoluted, because I think technically, maybe even next year, Batman could technically be in public domain. Now, film rights are a different topic with it.
True.
But it's, I mean, there's going to be some murky waters with that.
That's kind of crazy if it does.
I don't know the legalities of that. I think I just read that last night, that technically next year Batman will be in public domain. And I think somebody else on a podcast I listened to said technically Superman is public domain, but there's film rights involved, which is what makes it, tricky. Like, I guess anybody can actually do something with these characters, but there's going to be limits now.
Okay.
Maybe that has something to do with things going forward. I kind of doubt it, but
I don't know. Yeah.
But you guys
and I could be wrong, by the way.
Oh.
I don't want to be quoted on that.
No, we're not gonna quote you.
Well, I was gonna bring up the fact that you guys talked about getting comic book fatigue. The thing that I started noticing once we started getting more comic book movies, our action movies started disappearing because the comic book movies replaced them. Yeah. And as a whole, we don't have like the John McClanes anymore. We don't have the Terminators anymore. We literally just have these comic book characters. The closest one we got was a comic book feel of John Wick.
I was gonna say we have John Wick, and that's what feels like that's it.
And technically Fast and the Furious, which is horrible to say. But no. if that's what's happening, if the comic book world movies are replacing all the action movies, who's gonna really end up watching them? It's because like there's like, let's say, I'm just gonna make a number up and say, let's say there's 700 movies that come out that are straight to video, and that's where you get to see all these like bad action movies and whatever. I'm like, those might start becoming better than the ones they're putting in the theaters because of that whole concept.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Take a look at, for instance, I'm always going to talk about horror, so don't worry about it. How popular horror has been. Like, it's been straight trash, and we've started getting more independent horror, which has been really well. And I always bring this one up too. Sorry, guys. Look at how Halloween look at how Halloween Ends came out. That was a box office, like, supposed to be a juggernaut. And then we got a stupid movie about a fucking killer mime that came out at the same time that is blowing it out of the fucking water.
Clown mime.
Yeah. And that was my biggest point at that moment. It was like, it wasn't the best movie ever, but it came out at the right time. And that's what I feel like we need right now for the comic book action movie world, because right now everything in the mainstream just fucking sucks.
Oh, it's terrible.
And it's like, there's like you guys were saying, too many cooks in the kitchen, too many fucking people. It needs to come to a head where at what point you got to stop. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy like watching them, but am I gonna like pay for them? No.
I'm just at the point where that to me is what I'm getting sick and tired of. And I remember saying to you, Jeff, like back in 2016, where I was like, if they keep putting these extended cuts out for home release, that doesn't look good for them. Mm-hmm. It just looks bad. It is just that they're literally like laughing at us, going, "Oh yeah, you paid for this movie, but here's the better version that you're going to pay for again."
Yeah, right. Like, exactly.
I'm not doing that.
Kick in the teeth.
I will say this: I'm guilty of this. There is one comic book show that I look forward to every year, and that's The Boys. Nothing to do with Marvel or DC. I look forward to that show because it is a satire, and because I know this show will know when it's time to quit. When it's time to pack up its tents and fold up, it'll be done. And that's all I care about.
Here's something else that I miss is like when superhero movies first came out, like Christopher Reeve's Superman, Batman 89, Blade, there was never the complete intertwining of everything. It really was just here's a movie, we're doing our best to make this realistic, believable, and just have you lost in disbelief to be like, wow, how did they do that? Now in the CGI age, it's just so easy to say, oh, it's computer, but everything's got to be this universe, that universe intertwined. And I feel like the real nature and love of a solo movie is gone, where like you kind of dilute it by adding that little twist and Easter egg at the end to say, like, well, it connects to this. And it just doesn't pay off, really. Like, even as a kid, I admit that when I was watching the Justice League cartoon, I didn't really care for it. All I thought was, okay, we got more Batman in a cartoon, but I'd
Mhm.
rather watch Batman the animated series. I'd rather play the Arkham Asylum games.
Mhm.
And I just didn't think they were that impressive. I think the only reason why Avengers is, a juggernaut as it is because the movie was surprisingly a lot better and all those characters and actors worked out so well.
Yeah.
Then of course Warner Brothers said, "Well, we got to jump on this. This is
We
making like
gotta,
$1 billion. We got to
right.
put all of our guys together."
What are we
Me-
doing?
Meanwhile, they've had the property to Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and all these other characters since the 70s,
Decades.
and they didn't do a damn thing with them.
No.
And it took Disney to collaborate with Marvel and say, "Hey, here's a game plan. We're going to carefully plan it out." And that's really what happened.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now the DCEU is just, it really is a joke. And I know some people don't like the dark stuff because we live in a sensitive world to begin with nowadays, but sometimes you need to like have that grounded reality that
Yeah.
these Marvel movies don't really like pack the moral message that
It,
sometimes like we need to hear, like
yeah.
in Man of Steel, like you guys said, when he kills Zod at the end, even gods feel pain is kind of like what it was saying.
Human.
Yeah.
The human element. Yeah, I mean, I feel like these Marvel films, in my opinion, for the last so many years, they just feel episodic. They feel like they were all churned out in a factory by one director. Sometimes they're unique, sometimes they're different, but it feels like they were all made by the same person.
I
All
think the
because they
best
want to be a cohesive unit. They want to feel like they belong in the same element. That's why it kind of gravitates towards DC, because they do their own things that are not associated with the universe. They do things that are off to the side, off other projects, and they're not afraid to do R-rated shit. Seriously, you don't have the balls, Marvel, to fucking release Deadpool 3 with the Mickey Mouse logo in the front? You don't got the
Hell
fucking
yeah.
balls to do that because you're gutless. So
well, hell, aren't they gonna make a new Blade movie and they said it's gonna be PG-13?
yeah, fuck no, I'm not
It's like
watching that. Why
it's
would I
like
watch that?
it's like, yo, the first Blade with Wesley Snipes and Steven Dorff is fucking awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
It's great.
It's like one of my favorite comic book movies.
I say on top.
This was Fox. You didn't have the balls to make Morbius R because PG-13
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
sells.
whoa, 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 whoa.
I'm not
We're
going to
not
get
even
into
gonna go
that. That's a
there.
whole nother separation. If we even want to talk about that, I could talk about that
That's a
train wreck
joke.
all fucking day.
I was gonna say the only time I actually felt different about a Marvel movie was actually Multiverse of Madness, because you actually got a horror director to do it, and you had, yes, he stole so much shit from Evil Dead 2 that I was laughing the whole time. I'm
Yeah, he
like,
did. But
dude, you could tell it was a Sam Raimi movie from the get go, and I was happy because it was different. It was darker, it was grittier, but at the end of the day, it was still a Marvel movie.
I didn't think it went far enough. And I think that's
No.
because Marvel had the reins on him saying, no, this is too much. Pull it back. Too hard. Pull it back. So,
Actually, I think they are releasing Deadpool 3, but under the Fox banner.
of course they are. Of course they
That
are.
mouse symbol is never going to be near Deadpool. They're like, get the fuck out of here.
They're fucking gutless. That's my opinion.
Hey, they did the same thing with Nightmare Before Christmas. They thought this was going to be trash, and now all of a sudden it's making money, and it's like, oh yeah, it's a Disney movie.
All right. Actually, it was Touchstone Pictures, dumbass, but that was a company under the Disney banner. I get
Yeah,
that.
that's exactly it.
I
They'll just
mean,
release under a different banner. That's all they'll do. So,
I was like, look at Arachnophobia. That's technically a Disney movie.
oh my
I think I
god,
think I think Armageddon is too.
See, they're there. You just gotta look for it.
Yeah.
It's just
they're
they gotta-
there. They're there.
They
It's
try
just
to be sly with it, but I remember I told my dad that, and he's like, "What? There's like a strip scene in that movie." I'm like, "Yo,
yeah.
they killed Bambi's mom and Mufasa." I
Mhm.
was like, "Is this really like surprising to you?"
oh, I'll do it again. Oh,
I was like, come on, they own The Simpsons now, so they can't really say anything.
yeah.
It's like one of their like top streaming shows. I mean, fuck, I'm watching it right now.
Wait, while we're recording?
No, but I mean, like almost every day I have it on.
But yeah, I think we can all agree if we had a conclusion to this, it's fatigue. We're not overly excited about this list whatsoever, and money talks, and we're just gonna get this shit for another decade or two.
Yeah, from my last comments on it, I mean, I'm a huge Batman fan. You
Same
know,
here.
um, I didn't hate the Robert Pattinson movie, but I also wasn't overly excited about it when I saw it. I just left the theater going, yeah, it was cool. I'll probably watch it again, but I didn't get excited about it. I didn't like get too overly enthused about it. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, I'm
It's a
totally
fucking
dismissive
joke.
about. Yeah, I don't even consider that an actual Joker thing. And when people do, I'm like, stop. um,
We've already discussed that. So
yeah. So like when it comes to looking forward to stuff that you would think I would be excited about, I'm not. If anything, I gotta say, like these movies now make me appreciate the older ones even more
mhm.
because it's kind of like what Prince said about remakes. Like when somebody says, "Can I like redo your song?" He would say, "Why do you want to remake something that's already beautiful? Like,
Yeah.
why do we need to reinvent the wheel of Superman the movie? Because Christopher Reeves was so great when." At least like Henry Cavill did something different and added something new. Like we got more of his mom and dad. We got more of the Earth family with it. It's kind of like how people get sick and tired of seeing um, Martha and Thomas Wayne always getting shot. Like, how many times do we really
We
need
don't need to see that
to
anymore.
see
We
that? Like,
don't.
we've had 3 times, and like, at least they had a narrative where, oh, you found out Joker killed his parents in Batman '89. Batman Begins told an origin story. The only thing it really did for BVS was you heard Thomas say Martha's name, and then that's how you go back to the beginning of the movie when Superman says save Martha, and it's like, oh, our moms have the same name, and
Yo,
yet
I
it's
didn't know
so corny.
that.
Yeah, like really, I didn't ever think about it, nor did I care, but
I
still, I
know,
was
but
like,
do we have to see this again?
yeah, I agree. I was like, I don't think, which is where I'll give Robert Pattinson's movie credit that it was like the second year in, and it was still like nothing was really refined. Like the
Mhm.
Batmobile still looked like a Charger. Of course, people pick on the squirrel suit like for the flying scene, but I'm
And
like,
it was like
but
30 seconds, whatever.
but I'm
Yeah.
like, I could see him like using something like that before he gets really refined with his technology.
Mhm.
And as time goes on, it'll progress into a better Batman. Um,
Yeah. I can see that. Oh, yeah,
which
for
is
sure.
interesting. I think that's pretty neat. But
Mm.
I mean, and like I said it before about Batman '89, I think like because it appealed to that generation of the Adam West kids that are adults and now they're taking their kids to it. Because that's exactly what happened with me. My mom and dad took me at a drive-in to see it at 2 years old, and my mom and dad grew up watching that show.
Mhm.
And then when I watch the reruns and I go back and see it and I see like how the colors kind of pop, especially in the chemical scenes, but yet Tim Burton did add this like dark and dreary city. The bat suit looked legit, but the Batmobile was tangible along with all like the other little gadgets. And then you had like the crazy little like Joker symbols and a Batman emblem that was black and yellow yet, that it still was like so comic book, but it was like, it was fun. It was just a fun first movie that we got from that character. And
Yeah.
like when you see Christopher Reeves fly, how it's actually him and it's like the wind's blowing his cape, it's like it's there, it's real. And we got this stuff when this wasn't a thing. Like these were like movies that really set the groundwork to say, here's something special. And now I feel like what is special or was special is just being ruined. Like they don't care about what the fans want. They don't care about these characters completely. It's more about what these new people want that they can put their name on and that'll make money and say, see, aren't we great? Didn't we give you a great product? And with that, I'm just kind of like, you know what? I'm done.
Yeah.
Jeff?
I'm just damn, man. Like you fucking hit it home. Like how much to follow that?
Every time.
I'm curious to see what you have to say.
Honestly, dude, like I haven't been paying attention because of how bad it's starting to get. Like, on either side of the field, because truthfully, I am tired of it. I've been tired of it for so long because both movies, like both franchises, series, whatever the fuck I'm gonna call it, have been such in a decline. And it's actually frustrating because there's so much more we can start doing with the characters. There's so much that you could do with the movies. How I think the three of us could write a better script to make the whole DCEU fit the narrative of what they already started with Zack Snyder in an afternoon, fucking drinking energy drinks and coffee. But no, they pay these people fucking billions of dollars to fucking write this shit, and it's fucking trash. You've got fucking what, 75 years, if not more, of all these characters. Fucking pick up a comic book once in a while. Just flip through it for all I give a shit.
Read.
Like, yeah. And that's the problem. That's what it is. They're like, well, this character looks cool. Who gives a fuck if he looks cool? If it's actually not going to fit the story, then why the fuck do it? That list you read, John, actually pissed me off because I'm like, hey, it sounded like straight trash. It was fucking awful. And there's no point for anybody to watch any of that fucking shit except for probably Swamp Thing. Yeah, exactly.
And that's another thing. Like, there's no point of watching this shit anymore. You know, like there was like some renaissance with these movies that like told a different story or have some sort of like tributes, like what Tarantino will take like old movies or something. Like Batman Begins, you know, that actually took the formula from the Richard Donner Superman movie, and that's why you got like some silly jokes, like when Morgan Freeman says to Christian Bale, "What do you want the suit for?" and he goes, "Spelunking." And he's like, "Spelunking? Yeah, you know, cave diving." Like you running into a lot of gunfire in those caves.
Don't talk to me like an idiot. But
yeah, and it's just gone. You know,
the anticipation and the magic feel that we had watching these movies is gone because there's so much. It's oversaturated. It's overdone. Like shit, they probably are pissing on our face and enjoying it at this moment. Like, oh, you paid us $30 to fucking see this movie. Go fuck yourselves.
You see somebody like in California reaching 3,000 miles across the country and just taking their two fingers, plucking the money out of our wallets and saying, thank you.
You know, nothing's also relatable and nothing makes you excited anymore. Like, I think the last time I was genuinely excited was when I saw Ben Affleck's Batman costume, because I said, wow, that looks legit to the comic book.
Yeah.
You know, and besides Michael Keaton coming back and seeing him in a Batman suit and pictures again, and seeing that the Batmobile from '89's coming back.
Yeah.
And I hear about how I guess they're going to have like displays of his old suits in the Batcave. Like I'm looking forward to that, but then again, it's the nostalgia of something that I love from previous. It's not really like I really don't care about the Flash with this movie, and it's his movie, but I'm like, I want Michael Keaton Batman.
All I'll say is this: I have not been like overly sweating bullets to see a DC movie or any comic book movie since The Dark Knight Rises. When Colin, you and I saw that in 2012, I was anticipating that for weeks. We finally saw it and it met my expectations. And I was like, all right, it's done. Trilogy's done. We're not going to have like any sort of like spin offs or TV shows because, like you said, the solo movie is dead. It's not about having a solo movie anymore. You have to have an expanded universe. You got to have sequelitis. You got to have reboots. You got to have all this. You got to watch a TV show to watch a movie. You got to watch two TV shows to watch two other movies. That's what Marvel and DC are doing right now. I don't. That's not been the case in years past. We don't have a lot of time left on this world. I like to invest my time in doing other shit and not have to be like a mindless zombie watching a show after show, binging, wasting my time doing other things just so I can understand a movie 4 or 5 months down the road or next year. I don't want that. I don't want to have to watch a TV show to understand a universe or any kind of connective tissue. I don't want that fucking shit. So you can't just say one and done or two and done. It's not like that. And they're not going to get that because money talks. That's the way it's going to be from here on out. And all I'll say is this. DC, if you decide to just fucking pull the plug and end it, give me a good Kingdom Come movie. Just give me Kingdom Come. And then just fucking wash your hands and be like, that's it. We're done. You got Kingdom Come. It was brilliant. It'll live on in our hearts forever. And that's it. We're done. You're never going to get that. I would like that, but you're not going to get that. That's one of the best comic books I've ever read is Kingdom Come because it felt different than anything else I had ever read before. So you're not going to do that. Marvel, you'll be in phase 10 by the time that will be like in our fucking 60s. And I will have probably not watched a single one of those films. Who knows? I don't know. I know one thing that makes me more of a DC fan is I think it actually is because of what Samuel L. Jackson said a couple of years ago that irked me, saying Marvel makes heroes, DC makes interesting bad guys. That fucking pissed me off. I'm like, thanks, asshole. Now I know whose side I'm on, not yours.
He also didn't realize Tim Burton worked with Billy D. Williams.
We didn't.
But ultimately, it's the villains who make the story. The hero's just there. Take for instance the Terminator. The T-1000 is an amazing villain.
Yeah.
But he makes Arnold look good. So that's the point of a villain. If you got a shitty villain, you got a horrible hero.
Oh yeah, look at the other Terminator movies. They could. I even said, how can you top the T-1000 with that technology and that story? The only thing that came close was in that ride at Universal Studios when they had the T-1000, and it was like the spider-looking Terminator liquid metal thing. I was like, what is this?
Spider Terminator.
The T-1000. I was like, and of course, James Cameron had a hand in like writing and directing that. So I was like, just go back to the man.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's the problem too. If you, like I was saying, you don't have a good villain, then there's no story.
What's the old saying goes? Your story is only as good as your villain.
And here's the other thing. We've gotten so far away from our heroes have vulnerabilities. Christopher Reeve's Superman had a kryptonite necklace on him. Looked like he was going to die in the movie. It took a human to save his life. And then he had to like stop 2 nukes or something at the same time. So like he's vulnerable, weak, but he's still being triumphant. And it's that overcoming the villain. Yeah. We're not really getting that anymore. Batman was in the Batwing. It got shot down. He's limping. He's bloody. And at the same time, he's got to get Vicky Vale while fighting some goons, climbing up a clock tower after he just got into a plane crash, and then go after the guy who killed his parents after all these years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How about Ninja Turtles? They lose their dad with Splinter. He's kidnapped. Raph gets beat to hell. And then they get their asses kicked and they retreat, go back to the farm, and have to find themselves and be a team again, put differences aside. and say, let's get focused, let's get going. And even though they dust the Foot Clan, they got to go through Shredder. And we're like, damn, man, the heroes, like, they're kicking ass, but then they're very vulnerable against bad guy number one. Like, we're not getting that. Look at Mask of the Phantasm. Batman was getting his ass kicked all over the place in that movie too.
Yeah.
And then he still finds a way to be triumphant. And we're
The
not
best-
getting that.
The best
It's
films
just-
do that. The
it's
best
just-
films, yeah.
Yeah. I think the last time I saw a vulnerability in somebody, one was Black Panther and the other one was Captain America Winter Soldier.
Okay.
I think that was really it.
Because yeah, the best relatable heroes are the ones that are human and that have human traits. And yes, there are films out there that have aliens or extraterrestrials from other planets that have human-like features to them. That's what makes them stand out above others. It's just some do it better than others. Like you said, Captain America, yeah, that was a good one. Peter Quill's relatable in Guardians, but the other guys, we can't relate to them because they're not, they have human traits, but they're not human. But I don't know. Just this is
I could say
getting
Tony
fatigued.
Stark. Yeah, I could say Tony Stark in Iron Man 3, but he still had his resources at his beck and call. So that's why I was like, he was all right.
Yeah.
But
So this whole conversation is kind of funny because we did the same one right before the Snyder Cut came out. And honestly, I'm seeing like polar opposites of where we were then, where we are now. And that was what, 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
I think it was during 2020 because it was
That's when the
one of
Snyder
our
Cut
first-
came out, I think.
well, it was also one of our first Zooms because of
COVID.
COVID.
Yeah.
Yep.
So even in that short period of time, you can see how tired of their bullshit we got. And that's poor, man. And it's a lot to take in because we thought they were going in the right direction and it really hasn't. And it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when Zack Snyder's Justice League came out, I gotta admit, like, okay, yeah, it was 4 hours long, but I knew how to pace myself with it.
Yeah.
Beautifully shot, but we might as well have just made that movie all CGI for all I cared.
At this point, I'm satisfied. I've seen everything. I don't need to see anything new. I really don't. Just give me the movies we got already and focus more on new properties
I want
because they
something.
need money. They need money too.
I want
not
something
comic book movies.
tangible, like I actually want to see models again or like legit props and stuff. And I just feel like we're not getting it, and we probably won't unless somebody who really does come in and says, no, I want to make this serious.
Yeah.
Honestly, and like I haven't really been going to the movie theaters for anything new, and I haven't. I think the last movie I left that I just said, "Wow, my gosh, that was so awesome," was probably Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Okay.
And that had a lot of heart in it.
Yeah. I did see Knock at the Cabin this past weekend because I like M. Night Shyamalan. I always root for this guy because he does his own stuff. I mean, I know this was adapted from a novel, Knock at the Cabin, but he's a Philadelphia filmmaker. I want to support him because he does make good films. And I only go to the theater to support directors and actors that I want to see.
And that's another thing. A lot of actors have been pissing off the general public lately too. So
I don't really go to see many comic book films in theaters anymore. I don't. When was the last time I saw an MCU movie? I think was maybe 3-4 years ago.
hell, I think, Jeff, the most that we've been to a movie theater was probably the Mahoning Drive-In to watch the old movies that we didn't get the movie experience or a film experience with.
Yeah. Honestly, it's been more fun seeing the older films in theaters. Like hell, I just did Friday 13th Part 7 on 35 millimeter, and it was worth it.
I was jealous.
I know, dude. It was amazing. But it's kind of crazy. Like there is no pull anymore because, like I said, it's all watered down. It's all convoluted. It's all the same, and it's sad.
You know what else?
Just a new coat of paint.
You know what else I think is funny? It kind of makes a lot of the bad 80s slasher movies look good.
Hell yeah.
I mean, when you think about the practicality that's put into those movies and some thought concept
Yeah.
of like how to stop this bad guy or this death scene, you're like, you know, they were on to something back then.
Mhm.
So wait,
We
wait.
just
They had
didn't
a smaller
appreciate it
budget.
then.
They had to work with what they had to work with, and the people who were hungry for attention, they used that budget to their max. They weren't given tens of millions of dollars. They were given 2.5 or 5 if they were lucky. Maybe you'll get $5 million. Who knows? You probably only get one. Make it
So
work. Make it happen.
you're gonna tell me, hear me out. You're gonna tell me that fucking Chopping Mall and Frankenhooker are more compelling than a DC movie and Marvel at this
No,
moment.
they're no, they're not. They're not.
I think I've watched. I tell you the truth, I think I've watched Frankenhooker more than I have the Suicide Squad.
I'm talking about from a strictly budget perspective because all these comic movies are given the minimum is like 50 million. The bare minimum is 50. But for most of them it's probably about 80.
And
So
it's like back in the 80s, they gave you what? Like you said, maybe $1 million if you're lucky. You had to make that
Yeah.
stretch.
they gave
That
you
he
pocket
did.
change.
Yeah.
But it's for people who were like looking to make a name for themselves. Like, hey, I can do this, I can do that. That's gonna look good on camera, right? Let's do a camera test. And it looks amazing. It looks real.
Okay, we talked about Nightmare on Elm Street, and it was barely
Barely
like,
a million.
slightly less than 2 million.
Okay.
And then look what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They created
Yeah.
a horror icon, and it's like, I mean, it messed me up for a while when I
Mhm.
first saw it.
Yeah.
And the other ones, they again, it was the business, it was the machine, it was making money.
the
Like
machine.
you see it after 3 that 4, 5, and 6 were all money making.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with the DCEU. It's all money making.
If you want the real villain of this entire podcast discussion, it's money. You want the real villain, it's money.
It could also be a hero too. Like given it's one of those that can be good used for good or evil.
Yeah.
But in the hands of the wrong people, that's where
That's where it goes wrong.
It-
It's where
it-
it went wrong the first time.
it's like in The Dark Knight Rises when he says one man's tool is another man's weapon.
Mhm.
And right now the other man is using it as a weapon, and that's the machine that we have no control over,
We don't.
unfortunately.
That's all I got. Said my piece.
Any final thoughts, boys?
No.
I gave mine.
No.
I just
If I
wanted
give
to-
another final thought, I'll probably just scream at something.
That's kind of what this therapy session was.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
call it therapy, yeah, for sure.
I mean, just look at the title of the show.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh.
So, with that being said, I guess we'll sign off.
Yeah.
All right. This is Colin Peters.
John Rashetter.
And Jeff Manfred.
Thank you all once again for listening. Stay safe. Stay crazy.
Please, somebody help me.
Oh yeah.